Well, I have a wonderful electronic invention I want you to see. It looks something like this.
Hello everyone, my name is Devon and I am an amateur cinematographer and videographer learning to make one meaningful video at a time. In today's video, we're going to talk about my long-term use with the Sony A7 IV. None of this is sponsored or paid by anyone. These are all my thoughts after using it for over a long period of time. Now, there are plenty of great videos out there that are covering the Sony A7 IV in great detail, but for me, I wanted to talk about 5 negatives and 5 positives about the camera that I think absolutely every single beginner will realize the moment they pick it up after using it for a little bit. But if you're a professional, still stick around to see if any of the things that I talk about you agree with. The very first point that I wanted to talk about is going to be color grading, and I think with practice it has gotten a lot easier and I've kind of gone to notice these little nuances. But here's the big truth. I think 8-bit versus 10-bit footage, and then the whole 420 versus 422. With the Sony providing the 10-bit 422 footage, I do think it's a night and day difference. To make a technical concept very simple, it means that you're recording more color data in your footage. So when you're in post and you're working on it, the user has more flexibility to manipulate it and also make it to what they want to see visually in their mind. And that is something I appreciate really greatly from the video side of things. Next on the list is the mode dial switch, and I honestly love how easy it is to set individual settings on each mode. It saves me a lot of time when I go from video and not having the hassle to switch from S-Log to a standard color profile picture when I take profile portraits. It does slow down the process when you're kind of go through and finagling your settings, so it is a great needed feature. But with that being said, there is a little bit of an annoyance with the mode dial as well, and I'll get to that a little bit later on. So next on the list is going to be by far ergonomics. If you've had the luxury to hold every single version of the A7 series, you'll know that each iteration has improved its ergonomics, and by far this series, the A7 IV, has the best. I think it's the easiest to hold and the grip has definitely been improved upon, even recently from the A7 III. And that is a major bonus, I would say. So if you do get a chance to try to feel them out, you'll know the differences as they have changed through each iteration. And at number 4, it's going to be our color focusing. So we're all used to the traditional focus peaking, where if we're shooting manually, we can use peaking to see where the focus is at. But with color focusing, I find that it's a feature that makes it a lot easier. When you're holding the camera at a distance, you're not able to really see, okay, are you peaking at the right moment, at the right location? So for me, I find that the color focus shows you your plane of focus really fast, really quick, and that color separation is what makes it so much easier to use. So you can hold it at an arm's length away from your eyes and then seeing that instantly, knowing, okay, this plane of focus is my subject and I'm good to go. And I find that really convenient. And lastly, the bonus feature that I think is just so nice that Sony threw it in is using this camera as a webcam. It is as simple as plug and play now with this model, and I think that's a great feature. You're already spending a lot of money on the camera, so using it as a webcam every now and then just through a cable is really easy. I've used it multiple times with friends and families on calls, and they've always complimented how good my camera looked. So that's a bonus. I like that a lot, and it's definitely an underrated feature that every single person should be using more often. So remember earlier when I talked about that mode dial switch? Well, there's a double-edged sword as well. With the mode dial switch, I find that in cold weather, when you have gloves on, or in general just trying to use the switch itself, it's a little bit tedious and difficult to switch. Now, I do like the fact that it means you're not going to be accidentally switching it, but I do wish it was moved over to the other side where there's some empty space that the dial could be applied. You find that many cameras nowadays are adopting this feature and they are separating it. So I do welcome this feature, and I think it's definitely needed, but it's a little tedious and hard to do it, especially in cold weather or when you're trying to use it in general. So with the next 2 points, it's going to be surprising to a lot of video shooters, but for me, it definitely surprised me. With the new version, they removed the latch where it has a little opening where if you used a dummy battery to rig up your camera and attach it to a V-mount, well, that's gone. So now what you're left with is your battery door left open and the wire is preventing it from closing. And I think that's a very annoying thing to know that it's open, it's hard in general. I'd rather have the older version. I don't know why they changed it where you can just easily close it and the wire can be fed out nice and easily. And then moving on, if you're connecting this to an external monitor, you're gonna be surprised to find that that HDMI latch opens up and it's in the way most of the time when you're holding it handheld, or if you have a right handle rig that is attached to it. You kind of think, why they overlooked such detail or remove such a design that was functioning perfectly well. So those are two big things, especially that are annoying when you're rigging up your camera. Next, don't be surprised if you aren't able to play back your videos that you've recorded in 10-bit 422 on the default Windows media player. You are not going to be able to use that, so unfortunately you are going to have to download another application to view it if you're someone who just records video and then wants to look at it and archives it or uses it just as is. So that is a little bit of a tedious thing that you won't be able to seamlessly use. Now, I don't know if this is going to be on all computers, but for sure on my Windows 10 desktop, it is something that I am not able to use. And lastly, you are going to want to be more cautious with the flip out screen. I find that this is definitely not as robust as other flip out screens I've seen and used in the past. So when you're going to be using it, just be more cautious. It's definitely something else that I don't think needs to be talked about more. It's just something that you will definitely notice right away. So the takeaway of this video is that this is an amazing camera for the hybrid shooter. Any beginner picking this up is going to be able to utilize this camera to its full capabilities. Now, when we get into those niche examples, those niche problems that a lot of videos on YouTube do talk about, you have to remember that the rolling shutter for video or the limited frames per second for photography when you're shooting fast moving subjects are very niche for a reason. And unless you're a professional or have the budget of, who knows, an unlimited budget, right? Then you don't need to be concerned about it because this is a powerhouse complete package. But if you are those people that I mentioned earlier, there are perspective or respective cameras for that niche. So you have models dedicated for video that kind of reduce the rolling shutter, and you have models that are dedicated for photography that have an increase in frames, so that way you can capture fast moving subjects easily. And that's that. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining in. No matter what choice you make, if you pick up this camera or another new camera that's coming out once you are watching this video, the choice you make will be great. Until next time, I'll see you then. Peace.